Hello, Fashion Friends and Family. This is Stacy here from Sew Bromo, Mason Else Fitzgerald, and the Fashion Heritage Needle Trades Foundation. We are on location at Mason Else Fitzgerald, and I am working on an assignment for I would say like presentation training for our masterclass. And actually, what we found from our last masterclass and our entrepreneur accelerator is that the founders are having a hard time constructing their story, telling their story, and I wanted to show an exercise here that I'm working on that helps me to continue to recalibrate what it is I do within my practice. So here we have a table full of images that remind me about the work, some things that have already happened, some things that are like visioning, but it is a combination of my care and excitement about Indonesian culture through traditional artisan methods, in particular this embroidery that is leveraged and utilized often in these Indonesian kebayas. It's a traditional garment. Where you have that traditional garment, over there is the suit we reimagined it, the Kartini suit. And then we have images of me in the garment factories in Bali, Indonesia, and really excited about that sewing culture. And then we have, when I was in Bali again, I had started sketching this collection here, which no longer exists actually, but I do might incorporate that into my current line. Here we have like a conversation with my colleague Typhoon, who's out in Thailand, Bangkok, and she was in my fashion program in London, and just interviewing founders to tell that important story about the entrepreneurial journey. We also have here the exhibition that I did with what was formerly known as the Maryland Historical Society, with these garments, one of which is behind me, is the King of England, the former King of England, Edward's suit, along with the Duchess of Windsor, some of her pieces, which are sort of on the other side of this. We also have me in Kensington, just behind Kensington Palace, in the Orangery, doing some design research, meeting with some of the fashion interns that were working with me on the time. And then here we were actually I was wearing a vintage garment, meeting a friend who attended Central St. Martin's. This was in New Forest in England, so really enjoying the manor houses and that beautiful inspiration. This is an artist who's in London, and we were collaborating on a project at the time. Here we're in my design studio in Bali, again with the arts and communities in the villages. Here in Baltimore and Mount Vernon, they're contemplating the needle trades in my artist studio. They're in a cafe as a digital nomad, and vintage inspiration there. And here, actually, this is a great reference point. I was so nervous with our original interviews and content we were creating that we literally had to film my interviews with me blindfolded so I wouldn't feel awkward. You never saw my face in those moments, but it was actually a way to get me speaking more authentically to myself. And this is me traveling to Singapore, wearing a vintage dress, and artisan textile that we had worked in the community on. And this is the artisan community that actually created Patnura and his wife, who had created this work here. So I was working on a consulting project with an impact-driven fashion entrepreneur who was trying to do that kind of merger between artisan and quality craftsmanship. And then I actually have Alexa Chung here because I sometimes tell people, think of someone that you can point as a reference. So I think of myself a little bit like a fashion reporter around that sector, but more specifically focused on the needle trades, job creation, culture, fashion culture, textiles, and less so around the kind of critiquing of fashion. And here you have Kew Gardens in the UK and Richmond. And we have a lot of other different images that are telling that story. So it's important for you, even if you have to find images to visually tell that story, to do so, right? So we've got one of my daisy dresses I wore when I was traveling. We have me on the motorbike sourcing fabrics in a batik workshop in Ubud, here in Mount Vernon. So it's my life lives between this blur of Baltimore and this global travels, which allows me to understand my target audience being this petite Southeast Asian woman in build, who is an intellectual who's very high level within her work and her practice, probably an entrepreneur in some cases, but really cares and loves beautiful things in the way that they are, and cares about the way that they are made. And then we have here at Madison House with Nicole, and this is in Bali. So these are just little cues for me to kind of remember the path that I'm on. And this is the Duchess of Baltimore dress. We did a photo shoot around that for me to get a sense of how does it feel, what does it look like if there was a Duchess of Baltimore in Baltimore. And we were able to borrow these vintage garments, which some of them I ended up acquiring in the end from a shop in Old Ellicott City called Retropolitan. And this was the image from my first crowdfunding campaign pitch via Kickstarter in London. We filmed that on the London College of Fashion campus. And then my talks in global entrepreneurship, impact-driven change, and another one of those old film noir references, and that's like an image of me wearing that vintage garment. And then we have the kind of important elements of sourcing fabrics, and that these fabrics here are actually from Putu, and that's me in the Garment Loft and the Baltimore Museum of Industry. And this is an old one from when I was in fashion school in London. Oh, look at that outfit. An Abercrombie & Fitch jeans, a Burberry knit top underneath of it, and I think this was like a vintage blazer that I got from my sister. And so all of these pieces come together to help to tell that story, but you've got to be the one to be able to weave it all together into the line that you are creating and making and sharing. There you have a crazy master plan of not only a brand vision, but a value bridge vision of one's fashion life mapped out by the person living it. So from that inspiration, I mean, in part, I then have my Painting with Lace dresses here. And they pretty much blend a lot of those worlds, that Indonesian garment, the kebaya, a little bit of the Duchess of Baltimore dressmaker, who is my alias. And this dress is called Fern Lily. And these are locally sourced lavender from Starbright Farms. And here we have some of my reference fabrics. That's that suit, the Martini suit. That's some of the dresses that I've already finished. All right, so if you're interested in learning more about crafting and building an impact-driven fashion venture, you can find out more information on sewpromo.com, and we've got our Accelerator Program membership, also known as the Fashion Entrepreneur Needle Trades membership, and we have our master classes, so if you just want to pop in for a one-off class. All right, see you next time.